Story 1. For some background, the car wasn't mine. It belonged to my brother-in-law. He is suing her for about $60,000 for the damages. I don't know the exact car model, but it's a muscle car, and it's manual. It all started when I decided I wanted to learn how to drive a manual transmission. Since my brother-in-law is the only person I know with a manual car, I had him come over and teach me. When the car starts up, it does make a rather loud revving noise. We made sure to do it in the afternoon to avoid waking people up and tried to be considerate. Anyway, it was about the third or fourth day of him teaching me when she first appeared. Karen said, "Nice car, but it's too loud for my taste, though it's still nice." I replied, "Oh, thanks. Would you mind trying to keep it down a bit? My baby doesn't really seem to like it that much." "Yeah, sure. We've been driving during the day so it doesn't wake people up. I didn't know anyone around here had a baby, so I'm sorry about that." "It's not a problem. Just be quieter, okay?" With that condescending tone and smile on her face, she walked off, which kind of made me mad because I thought it was just a friendly chat. It wouldn't be the first time people have talked to me about my brother-in-law's car, thinking it was mine. I've grown to accept that people will think whatever they want, so I just play along and tell them about it later. 2 days went by with no sign of her. I woke up, got ready, and waited for my brother-in-law to come over so we could start my lesson. I walked outside, and lo and behold, she was there. Karen said, "I thought I told you to keep it down." "Sorry, I can't control it. It's just how the car starts, and we're not going to leave it running while we're not in it. That's a waste of fuel." "I don't care. Stop being so loud." With that, she was gone. It always annoys me when people complain about cars being loud. A car is a motor vehicle with an internal combustion engine in it. Of course, it's gonna make noise. My brother-in-law arrived, and off we went. We came back to my house to eat lunch. About 2 hours later, my sister and mom came over and told my brother-in-law and me to go look at the car. The entire driver's side was scratched up, and even a tire was popped. Only one person came to mind when I saw it, Karen. We walked down to her house, which was only a few houses away, and knocked on her door. All we heard from the other side was, Karen shouted, "I'm not apologizing." So this led my brother-in-law to say, "Then you better have a good case in court, because that's going to cost a lot to fix, and I'm suing you for every single penny." Karen yelled back, "Maybe keep it down then, you jerk." He replied, "Maybe don't go damaging cars and causing flat tires, and you won't get sued." This argument went on for about 20 minutes. We headed back, called the police, and got everything ready for what was about to come. When the police arrived, we started to explain what happened, how I was learning to drive a manual, the condition of the car, the damages, and what Karen had said. We were careful to ensure our side of the story was accurate and that our timeline was correct. After a while, we walked with the police to her house, and it went down about as well as you'd expect. One police officer said, "Excuse me, ma'am, can you come out here for a minute? This is the car owner, and he wants to speak to you about the vehicle." Karen responded, "I'm not apologizing. I told them to keep it down, and they didn't. They deserve it." The second police officer replied, "Ma'am, what you did is against the law, and they are pressing charges. You have 5 minutes to get out here, or we will get a warrant for your arrest and come back." Karen retorted, "Nice try, but I'm not foolish. I know my rights, and you're not allowed to enter my home without my consent or a search warrant." The first police officer clarified, "That's only partially true. We can't search your home without a warrant, but if we have a warrant for your arrest, we can legally enter your home and take you into custody." She was stubborn. Again, they went back and forth for a bit. After the allotted time passed, we went back to my house, the police left to get a warrant, and we waited. Currently, the lawsuit is in progress, and the trial is in a few days. She is in police custody. I have never found it easier to drive a manual transmission, knowing I won't have to deal with her condescending ways and tones. We've basically won. We have 2 police officers who can confirm she admitted to the crime. We have pictures, and we've been asking around the neighborhood to see if anyone saw her actually do it. So far, no one has. Story 2. A while ago, I posted a story about an entitled mother I encountered at work. In that story, I mentioned how my times of the month tend to be horrible, with symptoms like vomiting, nausea, passing out, shivers, etc. I saw comments saying that wasn't normal, but I'd pretty much been told all my life to just tough it out, and that I was okay. I've seen different doctors, and this was always the answer. However, even a friend mentioned it could be endometriosis, so after being worried for a while, I made an appointment with a new gynecologist. She was really nice and listed the exams I would need to have done that day, an ultrasound and a blood test. The problem was that when I woke up, the bleeding for the month had decided to make an appearance. The last time I had it was back in December, so it came back with a vengeance. I woke up feeling awful and nauseous, so I called my doctor, and she told me that she would prefer to have the ultrasound and blood work done when I'm off my period because right now, everything would just appear irregular. So I intended to cancel the ultrasound, but since I had already asked for the day off, I called my orthopedist and made an appointment. I have a condition called Haglund syndrome. Long story short, the heel bone in my left foot is slightly larger than it should be, and it has been bothering me for a while, so I might as well get it checked out. So off to the doctor I went, and he told me that I needed to get an X-ray and an ultrasound of my left foot and knee. At this point, I was waiting to get the exams done while simultaneously trying not to feel too terrible. I was literally sitting in a corner, shivering, and I wanted to vomit, but I was somehow holding myself together. Enter the wild entitled mother. The amusing part is that, despite having encountered many entitled mothers in the past, this was the first time I'd seen someone in full Karen mode, the haircut, gray leggings, and a fuzzy white sweater. Given the climate in our country, I was surprised she wasn't sweating. Karen just burst through the door with a sweet girl. This was a small waiting room. On one side, there is the area where you fill out forms on what you're getting done, and then you go to the other side to pay and sit down. The mother said to the front desk girl, "You have to open a spot right now. Can't you see my poor baby is suffering?" This was a relatively small waiting room, so I turned in the direction of the shouting and watched this unfold. The front desk girl replied, "Ma'am, I already told you, the only available spot is until 4 p.m. If someone cancels, I'll inform you right away." It was around 10 a.m. at this point. How can you treat paying patients this way? Don't you see my poor girl? Mind you, the poor girl didn't look to be older than 5 or 6 years old, but she didn't appear to be in pain. In fact, she was going around the waiting room, introducing herself to anyone who would listen. After some more arguments and inappropriate language, it seemed like Karen had finally accepted the schedule and was going to pay. I was sitting in a corner, waiting for my turn, when the sweet girl came over to where I was. After introducing herself, she started asking about me, my name, age, what happened to me, and, in her words, she told me that she had fallen off a high chair, so her mom brought her to get X-rays. Finally, the nurse called me, and I said goodbye to the girl. But when I was about to follow the nurse, Karen came almost running toward me. "Can you give us your spot? My poor little girl is in need of it so badly." To be honest, if the girl looked to be in pain, I would have let them go first. But she simply looked happy to be talking to other people, and I felt like I was about to pass out, so I just wanted to get this over with. "Sorry, but I'm feeling really sick, and I need to get X-rays plus an ultrasound." The entitled mother then proceeded to grab my shoulders and shake my body while yelling, "We need the X-rays. You are fine, my baby isn't." For a couple of seconds, everything went blurry, and the next thing I knew, I emptied my stomach on her legs and feet. A lovely combination of oats and apples. She screamed, "What have you done? You ruined my clothes. Now you have to pay for them." The nurse asked me, "Ma'am, are you okay? Would you like to sit down?" I was still feeling weak and dizzy, but could make out more shouting. Still, the nurse took me to a waiting stall to get changed for the X-ray. They gave me some water with sugar, and I started feeling better. I got the test done, and when I got out, the front desk girl told me that a security guard had to take Karen away because she was threatening to get back at me for destroying her property, and then she was yelling at staff members, claiming she deserved to get the X-rays for free now. In the end, I called my best friend to give me a ride back home. After a nap, I finally started feeling better. All I can say about this is, don't shake nauseous people unless you want them to vomit on you. Story 3. Cast. Me, a 17-year-old female, 16 at the time. My boyfriend, an 18-year-old male, 17 at the time. Annie, the entitled mother's daughter, a 3-year-old at the time. I live in a fairly small town, so many people know each other. This happened last year, in mid-June. We were on a break from school, and my boyfriend and I decided to get some snacks for a movie date. As one does, we went to the supermarket and started grabbing our stuff. We were debating which cider I should grab. I'm a lightweight when I saw Annie enter the aisle. She looked scared and was crying a little bit. As anyone with a little bit of a heart would do, we left the cider for now and went to see what was the matter. I asked, "Hey there, are you okay? What's wrong?" Annie looked up at me and said, "Ma maman," which means mommy in French. "Oh, have you lost your mom?" She sniffled and nodded. "Well, we're going to help you find her. Is that okay with you? I'm your name, and this is my boyfriend. What's your name?" Annie replied, "Annie." I took her by the hand and walked up to the help desk while my boyfriend paid for the groceries. We didn't get cider. I notified the man working the desk that Annie had lost her mother. He was very kind and asked for Annie's name and family name so he could make an announcement, which went something like this. "The little girl named Annie last name has lost her mother. Could the mother of Annie last name please present herself at the reception desk?" Annie was sitting on a little bench that was facing the exit so that she could see if her mother was headed out. It was rush hour, Friday, around 5 p.m., so it took my boyfriend a while to pay for everything and get to us. By that time, another announcement was made. Poor Annie was scared, as she kept asking where her mommy was. We tried to entertain her, and the man at the help desk allowed her to read a book from the book aisle to prevent her from becoming too upset. After an hour, she claimed she was hungry, which seemed fair since it was probably around 6 p.m. or 6:30 p.m. We didn't have very healthy food with us, but we gave her a little snack, a sponge cake stuffed with chocolate, shaped like a bear. Look up Lulu Ellerson. This went on until an hour and a half after the first announcement was made. The man pulled my boyfriend and me aside for a minute, saying that they were obligated to call the police because this could be a case of child abandonment. This was a relief in a way because the police would know how to take care of her a little better. About 10 minutes later, 2 police officers showed up and came inside. My boyfriend, the man at the help desk, and I were first asked about the situation. Annie was asked a couple of questions too. One officer said, "Hi Annie, I'm here to help you find your mommy." Annie asked, "Is mommy in trouble?" The officer replied, "No, don't worry. She's not in trouble, and neither are you. If we want to find her quickly, I need to know what she looks like. Do you think you can help me?" Annie nodded and described her mom's hair color, eye color, and roughly what she was wearing, mostly colors since she was only about 3. Shortly after that, a man and a woman entered the store. The man was running like crazy, and the woman was walking slowly behind him. The man was calling for Annie, looking very worried. This prompted Annie to look up, and her face lit up. She ran up to them, screaming, "Mammon, Papa, Mommy, Daddy" in French. The dad hugged her and looked so relieved, apologizing to her many times. The police still asked to see both of their IDs just to confirm that they were indeed Annie's parents, but that seemed to be more of a formality since Annie was the one to recognize them. The second officer asked them what happened, and what we heard shocked us. The mother said, "Well, I was doing my groceries, but Annie was being annoying, so I sent her to look at toys. And, well, I just forgot she was there and went home. It's only when her dad came home from work that we noticed she wasn't here. Miss, you do realize that your daughter could have been kidnapped. If these 2 hadn't been there," he gestured to us, "who knows what could have happened to her?" The mother replied, "Well then, it's fine. Why make such a big deal out of it? Why did you 2 even call the police? Are you trying to get me arrested?" My boyfriend answered, "We didn't call the police. The man at the help desk did because it's apparently store policy. We didn't know what was going on. This could have been a case of child abandonment." She was not pleased by this comment, clearly. "How dare you? Are you telling me I'm a bad mother? Is that what you're insinuating, young man?" Before he could reply, the dad gave her a look that would make anyone quiet down immediately. "I bet he's a teacher." After a bit more discussion, the little family was allowed to leave, and so were we. The dad thanked us profusely for our time. We went home, had our movie night, but I think about that sometimes. This woman was so careless with her child, it baffles me.